I liked him. That's not how this works.
Russell, if I may start with you, I think about all of the work that you've done, so many amazing queer storylines that you wanted to be a part of. This is just the most recent in that long list of things. With Plainclothes specifically, why was this something that you were like, I have to do this?
I think it was an extension of Joe Pitt from Angels in America. I feel like
Hmm.
a different narrative for him, someone who's very trapped in shame, someone who is highly functioning in remorse and perfectionism. And I love the script. I love that period of history. I love the dynamic, the power shift between these characters and how he's the older daddy role, I guess. And then you've got the younger guy and that first time sex experience and playing that character is it was kind of fascinating to jump into. And it was multi-layered why I wanted to do this. Carmen was a massive part of that. He's so enthusiastic and brilliant and gifted and
Hmm.
talented. Got a massive brain and knowledge for, writing, even though it's his first thing, and directing, and then
Hmm.
wanting Tom, and we were connected on Zoom, and as soon as we sort of locked eyes, there was sparks.
Tom Blythe plays Lucas, who the film kind of opens, kind of centering around. The story does kick off from this very like pivotal experience that Lucas is telling and living. Why was he the perfect guy to play this?
Because so much of my queer experience and in my experience in general, it's a lot about being in those spaces and looking at another person and just knowing with a look of the eye that you're safe, or that you're being like flirted with, or that they think you're cute. So much of our queer experiences is through these quick glances that basically say a paragraph. And as soon as he popped on the Zoom and I looked into his eyes, he carried just like this history and this story, and I knew that that was so important for Lucas, for the character. He had to be played by someone who could express so much with a single look. And I think Tom, it's not easy, but he does it so beautifully.
It's
I
funny you talk about locking eyes because Carmen and I were just speaking about the way that this film opens, kind of centered around Lucas, and then Carmen said that you nailed the way that a look can mean so much when it comes to people, whether it's a flirt or an unspoken message. So I'd love to have you kind of just talk about your initial thoughts about reading the script and then kind of mastering the importance of getting something across without even saying anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a theme in the film because the film kind of begins with a look in a way.
Yeah.
But, well, actually, the whole thing begins with a look because that's how Lucas entices his, I mean, targets essentially at the beginning of the film. That's how he finds other guys who are cruising in the mall and then leads them to the bathroom. And then he does that obviously with Andrew, presuming it's going to be the same experience, and then basically falls in love at a glance and realizes he's looking at someone special and different to past experiences. And he's already dealing with his sexuality, but pushing it down and hiding from it. So then when he meets someone with a glance that brings all that chemistry like bubbling up, he can't deny it. Even if he's denied it before, this is undeniable. And so yeah, I think I just lived in that moment with Russell, and Russell's so generous with his eyes as well that it was very much
I've got very generous eyes.
a very generous eye. It's been
Generous eyes. I love it.
said before. But yeah, it was just being present. It brought up all those emotions because there's fear there, there's passion there, there's attraction, there's sensuality, there's like the fear of being caught, there's the fear of being being known,
Shamed.
shamed, all of that wrapped into one. And then, of course, the film ends with a look, which is Maria Dizia playing my mum, with a look that everyone who watches the film is blown away by because she's portraying like a million different emotions there as well.
Mhm.
There's a through line in the film about just like our connection through the eyes, I think.
Russell, you've done a lot of these types of projects. Tell me about like for you, what would it have meant to have a movie like Plain Clothes when you were, a bit younger and kind of finding your way?
Well, I think at that age when you're younger, you're desperate for anything where you can see yourself. So any queer cinema, there's not enough of it. There's not enough of these stories being told. So that representation was definitely lacking when I was younger. I feel like there's an abundance now, but it's still less than there should be. I'm very inspired by a younger generation that have so much content that they can pull on. You look at things
Mhm.
like Heartstopper for example. If that existed when I was a kid at school, that would have changed everything. But it just didn't. I can't, it would have been great. You can go back and be nostalgic about it, but I feel like now is the moment we all live in, and we just have to keep making these stories and telling more and making more people visible that are minoritized and demonized so they can be humanized. And the only way you can do that is art. And it means a lot that I'm part of this film and I'm part of so many of the queer stories that I've told. And when they do resonate and connect with people, I feel proud for that. And I feel like if I can be part of something that helps you fully realize who you are or find some safety or semblance of hope, then that's amazing.
Tom, without, revealing too much, this film does touch on faith, religion, and kind of the relationship that people who are LGBTQ can have with that. Curious, what that was like for you, because I think, I think about the work at GLAAD. We're doing a lot of work to kind of break barriers when it comes to people who are of the community and also of faith. So I'd love, for you to talk a little bit about that.
I was just thinking about this earlier, actually. I forget her name, but there's a Catholic priest,
Mhm.
I don't forget what they call bishop or something, and I think she's in Washington D.C. and she is very outspoken about the church being as inclusive as it can be, and she's one of the few people in like the clergy who are pushing back against the current administration vocally, which right now, I mean, it's starting to feel like we live in Putin's Russia, like at the beginning of that. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, but it
I don't
does.
think that's dramatic.
It does. It's starting
But
to feel
she's
like
in DC as well.
I believe she's in DC.
Wow.
I saw a video recently of her just speaking out very plainly, and I thought that is brave to do that, especially when you're high up in an institution that, by the way, only a few years ago didn't even let women be in that position, and she's actively supporting the queer community and communities of minority. What we do is nowhere near as brave as that. Like, there's been a long history of people in the arts being at the forefront of that conversation, but when people like her are at the forefront of that conversation, like I think we need to be uplifting them, supporting them, making them feel like they have us all at their back.
They've got an army behind
They've got
them.
an army at their back, so more people feel brave to do that. Because imagine if more and more of people in those positions of power in both government, but especially religion, started speaking out like that, it would break down those barriers, and it would send a clear message to to those in power who are pretty keen on stripping away as quickly as they can, that we're just not having it, and that
Yeah.
we're not going backwards again.
Hers is a
Yeah.
big act of bravery, but even
Massive,
small acts
yeah.
of bravery
Well, yeah.
every day
So true.
can make a massive difference.
Mm.
And just being vocal, and as I get older, I feel more emboldened to be more out and more visible, and that is one of my main drives, and that's why, like, the stories I tell, I feel like are so important to me. And I think there's so many actors now, so many people in the public eye who are celebrities or who are pop singers or artists, writers who are very visible and talk about it in a way that is very plain speaking with no shame.
Yeah.
And that's so important for so many people.
Yeah. And likewise with allies, I think
Oh
the
God,
best thing you can do
allyship.
is
Oh my
that
God.
shameless allyship. Just
Big up the allies, yeah, for sure.
But why was this kind of the story that you felt like you wanted to put into the universe right now?
I really wanted to take a closer look at my anxiety and how my anxiety was a barrier to me being my true self. And I feel like that anxiety being a barrier is something that it still kind of happens, especially in queer relationships. It's not just about the coming out experience. I think anxiety can be a barrier to like us connecting with each other. I was just inspired by a court case that I read about where a man was suing the city of Long Beach for entrapment in 2016. He was arrested in 2014. And the fact that those sting operations were happening at that point was shocking to me. And I just learned that like up until 2019, they're still happening. It's just when people hear the plot of the film, I think they think it's, maybe fiction, but it's actually inspired by true events that have happened to our community.
What a time in the world and the country in 2025 for a film like this to be coming out, given everything that our community is facing when it comes to our rights, our just access to things. What's it like for you to think about that, to be a part of putting a great queer film out into the universe, knowing that 2025 has become a surprisingly tough time for us?
I mean, I don't take it lightly. I feel so privileged that I got that I get to release my movie in theaters and that I got the chance to make this movie. It just makes me want to be louder with my work, and it makes me want to tell so many other stories about my experience, my friends' queer experiences. And I just think it's so important that we do it now more than ever, given the political climate. We're just saying that we're not, going anywhere, and that we have stories to tell and we're going to continue to tell them.
Let's talk about Russell, because if you think about Russell Tovey, he is an icon in the queer storytelling space. I think about obviously Looking, American Horror Story, so many other projects that I'm not even thinking of. He read the script, was like, yes, I want to do this. Tell me about what that was like for you, because like I said, he is such one of those actors that wants to be a part of telling important stories about the community.
Well, when I found out I was going to be Zooming with Russell Tovey, I knew the lighting had to be right. I knew like I had to look my best. Oh no, but seriously, like he's such a legend, and I've looked up to him for so long. It's been amazing having conversations with him, not just about Andrew, but about our own lived experiences.
Mhm.
And I'm really lucky to call him a friend. I've been kind of going through certain things lately where I reach out to him and I get his advice because I know he's been there. And I think it's so important for me to let people know like how amazing of a person he is. Like a lot of times when you meet your heroes, it can be really tricky because they might not be exactly how you imagine, and he's not exactly as I imagined. He's so beautiful and warm and just giving and caring, and I'm just so lucky to know him.
You talked about this really being like a cathartic experience, your own queer journey experience. Have you ever thought about if you were a kid and turned on the TV or went to the movies and saw this film or saw a film like this, what that impact would have had on you and how things may have been a little easier?
I think about it a lot. I mean, I made the movie that I wish I could have seen as a teenager. I don't know if I would have been able to watch this as a kid. I mean, I watched Titanic when I was 7, and I think the situations in this aren't as graphic as Titanic. I think the fear and anxiety would have freaked me out as a kid, and so I don't know if I would want to see it as a kid. But yeah, I made the movie that I wanted to watch and I needed to see as a teenager. Something that spoke to my anxiety and my desire for perfectionism and being what society told me to be. I think if I saw this as a teenager, I would have felt a little more free to be myself. Not even just in terms of my queerness, just in terms of just myself. I wouldn't have hidden my Britney Spears records. I wouldn't have I would have like really like just gone full into musical theater like I wanted to, things like that I did.
Hmm. I know. I remember having my Kylie Minogue record, so I get it. I totally feel it. What do you want folks that go to the theater and see this to take away from it?
That no queer people die in this movie.
It's true. Hmm.
I would like people
Don't kill
to.
your gays.
What's that? Don't kill your gays. Coming out stories will always have a place. I feel like people are always like coming out stories might be running their course. I think that we're always going to have them if we're living in a place where people have to police their feelings in this way. I think expressing that those stories are as important. But my ultimate goal is that people are left with a feeling of hope, and that they're left feeling like they can police their feelings a bit less. That's my goal. Yeah.
Nice use of the word police there. That's another little, it reminded me. Carmen, I am so excited to get to reconnect with you after Sundance. And now that the film is going to be in theaters starting September 19th, I can't wait for the rest of the world to see it. Yeah, just big congrats to you.
Thank you. And thank you to GLAAD. Love you guys. Thank you.